Cool customer. Let me show you some more satellite images as well. They show the storm battering the coast, but you can also see a grey band of smoke that's drifted east from the California wildfires. And to make matters worse, more tropical storms are stacking up and threatening other parts of the Gulf Coast. Well, let's speak to Matthew Cappucci, a meteorologist for the Washington Post. He's just returned from the Gulf Coast. Matthew, we appreciate your time today. First of all, tell us what you saw when you were down there.
You know, it really was incredible. I've seen hurricanes before, but this one was moving so incredibly slowly, only about 3 kilometers per hour, barely walking pace, which means we were in the thick of things for hours at a time. We had roughly 4 hours in a row with winds gusting in excess of 150 kilometers per hour and rainfall rates between 7 and 10 centimeters per hour. That stacked up to more than half a meter worth of rainfall where I was. You know, I actually parked my vehicle on a sidewalk. But other people, they lost their cars due to flooding in the parking lot at the hotel I was at. And then we got into the eye. It was deafeningly quiet. We could only hear tree frogs and crickets out there. And it was a very impressive event. I actually just flew home earlier on today, and I can tell you there was a lot of turbulence flying back to D.C. And in fact, you can actually still see Sally's remnants out the window with very strong thunderstorms producing tornadoes over the Carolinas.
Well, it sounds a challenging trip, certainly. Tell me more about what's coming the way of the Gulf Coast with these other storms that I was mentioning.
Yeah, we've reached the peak of hurricane season, and unfortunately, there's no rest for the weary. We have multiple other storms we're tracking, including a threat in the Gulf of Mexico. But first, we start with Teddy, Category 3 over the open Atlantic. That will impact Bermuda, with winds gusting as high as 200 kilometers per hour. And it's actually the second hurricane to strike Bermuda in just a week. We had Paulette earlier this week as a Category 2. But there's also something lurking in the western Gulf, and that one has my eye. It has a 90% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. And already, we're seeing, based on scatterometer data from satellites, a closed circulation, which means that's a precursor to a tropical storm, and if it does become named, it will see the name Wilfred.
And Matthew, this is clearly serious, but is it more serious than other years?
Yes and no to an extent. So far this year, we've actually only had 2 major hurricanes, one of which has affected land. But the number of storms has been so impressive. In fact, after Wilfred, we'll actually have to turn to the Greek alphabet for new names because we just ran out of names. We've had 20 named storms so far. So the rapidity with which these storms have been forming has been extremely impressive. But at the same time, the majority of storms have been quick-hitting, fleeting, and somewhat weak in terms of wind speed. But there are signs the activity will start to pick back up again, and unfortunately, we have a long way to go for the rest of this season.
Matthew, thank you. That's Matthew Cappucci, meteorologist from the Washington Post. You know, things are getting serious if the Americans are running out of names for their storms. Now, in a few minutes on Outside Source, we're going to turn our attention to the issue of misinformation once again, and the issue of misinformation